This is Sophie Heller, and this is an ACT English meaning question. This question underlines an entire sentence and asks us to rearrange it the best in order to have the best sense stylistically and also to not be awkward. So let's read the sentence as it is and see if we can improve upon it in the answer choices. As it is, the sentence says, "There are among the inhabitants a scheme of balancing acts that take place called an ecosystem." So this is very strange because we want to say that this scheme of balancing acts is called an ecosystem, but we have this that take place in between it, which is really breaking it up, and we don't know what's applying to what. It's very confusing. So in a good sentence, we'd want the author's purpose to immediately be apparent, and usually that comes with cutting down words and making the sentence less awkward. So that's not going to be good. Choice 2 is similar. So among the inhabitants, there are a scheme of balancing acts that take place called an ecosystem. That doesn't make sense because the scheme of balancing acts that takes place called an ecosystem, that's a really long, clunky phrase. And it's really odd to say that to have this among the inhabitants first, because we don't know what we're introducing yet. It'd make more sense to put this at the end, to say that there's a scheme of balancing acts called an ecosystem that takes place among the inhabitants. So that's odd. It's also separating this idea of taking place and where's it taking place among the inhabitants. So it's separating those two. So it's just a really unclear sentence, and it's hard to tell what the author's trying to say. Choice number 3, there are a scheme of balancing acts called an ecosystem that takes place among the inhabitants. So this is odd because we have balancing acts that takes place. So balancing acts is plural and takes is a singular verb. So that's not going to be good. It also just doesn't, it's still really clunky and it just sounds awkward to the ear. And when you hear choice 4, you're going to see immediately that it's much less awkward than the other 3. So choice 4, a scheme of balancing acts called an ecosystem takes place among the inhabitants. So we have the takes place and among the inhabitants. So these are together, so we know where it's taking place. So that was the problem in choice 2, the separation. And we have the scheme of balancing acts and the ecosystem together. So that was another problem that we saw in choices 1. So we had the scheme and we had the ecosystem separated, and we saw it also in choice 2. So this is perfect because the things that modify each other are next to each other, which is a rule for modifiers. And it's a concise sentence and it conveys exactly what the author's trying to say. So this is good.